Hello, this is the Scottish Football Show, and this is what's coming up. Please release me, let me Kyogo. He's off, everyone. Sharing is caring, but do Dundee and Simo's Sly Saints. Welcome to another week of chaos in Scottish football, everyone. Amazingly, though, only 2 matches were postponed at the weekend because of Storm Aylwin. Arbroath and Celtic, they didn't play, but they're both top of the league, so it doesn't matter. Schools were closed. People couldn't even go out and enjoy a tasty Tesco meal deal. But there was still plenty of football, thank the Lord. I just wished I was kind of up in Scotland to just do what the kids do and sling your jacket above your head and just try and catch the wind. Those were the good old days. Well, joining me this week, her opinions may cause their own storms, but as we saw this week, she can even strike fear in the current Rangers manager. It's TNT Sports senior producer, Laura Brannan. You all right?
Hello. Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well. We'll get on to why you were scaring the living daylights out of big Phil Clem. But another man who wouldn't have been worried about his hair in Scotland this weekend. A dude enjoying the heat waves in Australia. Melbourne City's creative director, Findlay Marks. Back to the old follicle jokes, mate.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Open the barrel again.
Don't know how well down the Paisley Gilmore Street, getting off at Paisley Gilmore Street stuff went down last week. So yeah, let's go back to the hair based.
There's only so many times I can use the Paisley punter from down under.
It's got a good ring to it. That would definitely be my kind of like, darts or wrestling walk-in announcement.
Yeah,
so
man.
figure out the theme tune.
It's probably as far as my intelligence could ever muster and go to. So I'm proud of myself. Laura, you were at Old Trafford last weekend, and we tweeted out unknowingly to you when you said
Yeah,
the
thanks for
phone.
that.
Yeah, we were like, we've got to just get it out. It's hilarious. Yeah, standing next to big Phil Clem. How was that?
Yeah. I mean, it didn't really do much for me, but it's strange actually. He was just standing on the touchline during the warm up, and no one noticed him. And I was kind of standing there going, "Why is he's just standing there watching, and no one's clocked on yet?" And it shows you how long he was standing there for, because I didn't even clock that he was still there, and I'm just standing there also like, okay, pass the time.
Smashing.
And
You looked more
yeah.
like the manager than he did. Arms folded.
It was the perfect picture because it looked exactly like it was like maybe about the 65th minute of the match. Both of you were contemplating a substitution for your side, which way the game's going to go. It was great. I would back you all the way as a manager, by the way, Laura. I would not cross you in a dressing room at all. You would strike fear into my heart and I'd go out and play with everything I had.
Christ.
And that's how I hope my team at work think as well.
Yeah. Jesus, lost the dressing room. Right, Rangers were robbed. Let's move on. We do get sent in some industry questions, and sometimes we can answer them, sometimes we can't. Basically, we can't tell you who's a dick and who's not a dick.
Unless we were having a pint, then
Aye, no, but we can totally say who's like really sound in that, and then everyone can else make up just put the dots together. But we got asked a question from Barry about clubs making deals and how it works in the media when you announce these deals and when they're happening. And given that, Laura, you're ex-Motherwell, and Finn, you're currently at a football club which announces deals. I'll go to you, Finn, first. Like, just on your personal experience, this question seems to suggest, what is it like when you first hear of a player joining the club, and what's that like in terms of turnaround for? Because you would do like creative things, right? Like, so in a production point of view, you might hear of something and you get like a week's build up to be like build graphics and make it look nice, but you wouldn't get that turnaround time, right? If you're announcing the signing of a player.
Not really, and we do still get a heads up ahead of most of other people at the club. So generally, I don't know if it was the same at Motherwell, Laura, but the way that we do, so like obviously the kind of higher ups in the footballing department, so that's your director of football, head of football operations, the first team coach, all of that stuff, they'll be having discussions. from an administrative point of view, there are certain people that are higher up or in the leadership team at the club that would be made aware of things that are going to
Yeah.
happen. And when something's getting to about 90% done or something like that, they'll probably give us a shout of this could be happening in the next day or two. Could you put something together? It is slightly different in Australia, just given the distance it is from anywhere and the vastness of the country. So we don't tend to have like a deadline day, maybe in the UK, where a player physically arrives to sign the deal, and you've got to get like him in the shirt or with the scarf or at the stadium or whatever. We don't tend to do that because we make the announcement and then it might be 5 days until they end
Yeah.
up in Melbourne, especially if they're coming from a European club. But sometimes stuff literally happens overnight or whatever. So we've woken up to stuff. There was one, it wasn't so much an incoming as an outgoing last year. But our club captain, and this is Scottish football slightly relevant because our club captain is Aziz Behich, formerly of Dundee United. And he, in the middle of last season, this kind of shows you where Australian football is in the middle of the world, or at least the Asian kind of like football food chain. We were approached by, what's Ronaldo's club? Is it Al Nassr? I think it is.
Yeah, Al Nasser, yeah.
So Al Nassr came in and basically asked us on the end of our deadline day, look, we need cover for left back. Can we have yours? And we were like, well, no, because that's mental. He's the club captain, one of our most important players. And they were they gave us so much money for a 6-month loan deal that it was actually, I think it was, so in terms of the City Group, it was the highest loan fee ever paid for a City Group player. So that's inclusive of Manchester City players going out on loan. I think it was something like 2 million or something like that.
Wow.
We got for 6 months of our captain going out, which is for an A-League club stupid money. So you have to do it. Plus, he also could go out, be teammates with Ronaldo for 6 months, earn more money than he could in a decade playing in the A-League or whatever. He's 32, 33 years old. So yeah, that was literally, we got messaged, I think at like 5 a.m., 4 or 5 a.m. From our, the kind of head of comms at the club, telling us that this was happening and we needed to. I actually didn't have to do anything on a video front, but we had like graphics, comms, and all that stuff to put out. It's also because it looks weird, right? The optics are weird. It's like why is one of your best players and your captain leaving on loan for 6 months? Well, there's weird anomalies like that, but generally, yeah, we get a little bit of a heads up, and then you just need to roll with it.
That's really interesting. I wasn't expecting you to say that. So Laura, like, what was that the same at Motherwell?
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on, it's a case by case basis. There'll be
Right.
some that they'll know for days, weeks, and there'll be others that just get bam, hit you. Oh, it's happening in 2 hours' time. Luckily, if the club are good at communicating with it internally, you get a heads up. Like Motherwell was, we had a very kind of close knit behind the scenes, so you would get heads up. But what we did as a media team was purposely structure the output for transfers. So each window came round, we would try and not overcomplicate the signings, because sometimes they were very last minute and you didn't want to do big dramatic videos and complex edits for each player coming in when you don't know the player. You don't get a lot of time with the player when they first come in. So it's easier to just go, well, okay, we'll go with just photography for this one, or we'll do a simple 5-second hit against a backdrop and they're looking at their feet and they look up to the camera and that's the reveal as their face. Something that is a very easy cut and
The old profile shot.
So that's a lot easier for players coming in. And then what you do is you spend more time talking up the players that are going out and celebrating the ones that you want to kind of say has done well for the club and thank them for their time. And that is the one you've got tend to have more of an inkling of. You kind of know they're coming to the end of their contract, or there's clubs that have been interested. We think we're going to get a bit of money for them. You talk to the player themselves, you talk to like the kind of the CEO and such, like the recruitment team. You kind of know when players are leaving. So then in that case, you get a bit more time. Or in my case, James Scott decides to leave on the actual day and I get about 30 minutes to turn around and edit of all his goals, which was a stressful deadline day for me.
Was
But
that
by
Hull?
and large, yeah.
That was a big deal that at the time. He was like
Yeah.
really young and he went for some big money, didn't he?
Yeah.
I had
And
no
that's the
way,
case of,
half an hour.
give me all these goals. Tell me all the dates he was playing and scoring and assisting. And it
Give
was
me
like,
those
pull it all
3
together.
goals against St Mirren that he scored one time. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so
Off the top of my head, yeah. Someone out there will be like, actually, he scored more than that, and it was against these teams, you idiot. That's Twitter for you. But it will have some exciting times coming up in the next few weeks. Or week, I think, is deadline day. A week tomorrow. Monday at 11 o'clock on the 3rd of February, it would be, wouldn't it? Yeah.
So when you're listening to this, it's definitely not a week tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
It's on Monday. It's in a few days' time.
Yeah. My head, it hurts. Right, we're all laughing, so we should laugh some more. Some funny stuff that's happened in Scottish football over the week. I mean, we did mention, Laura, that you were at Old Trafford. Can I just kick things off? Like, when you saw, I don't know where you're positioned when you're at the game, right? But for whatever reason, when Man United scored the winner, like right at the death, right? Rangers were robbed, right? They go and celebrate at the corner, and I thought it was a steward who was getting in the way to try and stop Bruno Fernandes, not Fernandes, going into the crowd and maybe getting a yellow card. But it turns out it was actually Rangers assistant kitman David McGregor. If you watch it, Fernandes goes straight in, and he just almost as if like he's no look like shoulder barging, trying to get in the way. I've watched it a few times. It does look like he's actually just trying to get down to somewhere he's trying to get to. It's just bad timing, but it looked really funny.
Are you surprised I wasn't muscling my way in as well? When you were
Yeah, I thought
watching
you were
it?
just going to dive in and be like, "Watch yourself, Davey."
I actually decided when the plan we'd always had was if Rangers were winning the game when it came to the 90th minute, or in this case equalised late on to win the game
Yeah.
in a positive manner, I was going to go round. I was at the other end, so I was going to, at the tunnel where they scored. I was going to go round to the away fans and get the full-time scenes of the Rangers players coming towards the Rangers fans. So I was mid running round the side of the pitch at this point when Man United scored the winner.
Wow,
And
because they don't normally
they-
let you run. Like,
Oh.
once you've got your position, you're told to stay where you are.
Don't tell you if I did that.
You're like Usain Bolt, like running up the wing.
So luckily I've got a teammate who was there to pick up the Man United goal from a like TNT perspective. But from my perspective, I was all up for running down, getting the full-time scenes, being in the middle of it all, and I was left standing there feeling a bit stupid when the winning goal went in.
Any other funny stories that we want to pick out?
Talking of that game, the Union Bears got denied taking their drum into the stadium. Which happens at some clubs. It's not a new thing, but I did highly respect their approach to getting around the problem. They dismantled their drum, snuck it into the stadium, and then once they were back in the ground, reconstructed it again, taped it all up so they could use it once they were in the away end.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
Yeah, I've got a lot of time for that.
How did they get the bits of bin? How did they get the bits of bin in? Or how did they chop it up?
This is what I was wondering, because I was like, see, even if you're sawing up a drum, right, it's still not tiny. Like, there's still massive chunks. So unless they've got, you know, that like the this is good for an audio medium, but if you're watching this on YouTube, you know, like the meme of the guy that like does the kind of like checking you going in at the security of whatever football round it was. Unless it was that guy like sorting them. That's mad. It reminded me of I think this was it was a Rangers fan as well. It might have been like Dunfermline or Dumfries Loyal. I can't remember what it was, but there was one guy maybe a season or two ago who basically tried to see how much or how big a takeaway. Not drink, but just food that you could take in. And the best one he smuggled in was a footlong from Subway into Ibrox. And he would always photograph himself with the foods at Ibrox doing it.
Did they put it down the trousers? It's like a Spinal Tap joke, isn't it?
One would speculate, or maybe up the sleeve of your jersey. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, that was mad. Just while we're speaking of the food stuff, the one other thing I wanted to bring into this section, just because I absolutely loved it. I know some people will have a go at it. I think it's class. Wraith Rovers Barry Biscuit. Have you guys seen this?
Yes.
So
yeah, it's so bizarre.
They've taken the picture of the new manager, Barry Robson, made it into like, you know, one of those like rice paper transfers you can put on top of a biscuit or whatever. And the picture's funny enough to begin with because I think it's a photoshopped photo of him when he was Aberdeen manager, except they've just superimposed Wraith Rovers colours and a Wraith Rovers background on him. So there's that. But those biscuits are class. See, if we do that, that's going to be like some wee local wifey making a recipe that's like 100-year-old or something like that. Those biscuits will taste class. So if anybody's up for sending it a Barry biscuit all the way to Australia, I don't know if it'll be allowed through customs, but please try, because I want to try a Barry biscuit.
I think Wraith Rovers should send us a Barry biscuit. Wraith Rovers, we're
London's easier than
now.
Melbourne.
I want a wee nibble of Barry's biscuits, please. Yeah. Jesus. Oh man.
I did like the first reply on Twitter was prone to crumbling.
I love it. Biscuit jokes.
They walked right into that one.
Oh, that is good. That is good. Right, okay. Some news. Let's talk about some news quickly though, because we're always late. So it's not news.
Yeah. And I've got the last episode of Traitors to watch, Andrew. You're holding me back here.
Oh God, what's that? That's how out of touch I am. Right, Celtic and Rangers are into the latter stages of Europe. That's good news for Scottish football. I know Rangers, they lost 2-1 to Man United, but Celtic did beat Young Boys. That's good. Quite interesting, the new competition format. Are we liking it? Do we like the new format?
I think I'm contractually obliged to say yes.
Yeah, well spotted, Laura. I wasn't trying to catch you out, but I could have. Could be quite interesting. I know it's another Battle of Britain, Laura, in terms of Celtic.
To be fair,
travelling to Villa.
Be fair, in all seriousness, we've got match day 8 this week coming, and this is a whole new concept. Match day 8 has never been a thing before, where all 36 teams play at the one time. So 8 o'clock Wednesday night, and it's the same again for the Europa League on Thursday night. So 18 fixtures. It's huge because this large table is going to move around, and there's a lot of scope for big things to happen. Maybe not so much now that, well, and from our perspective, Celtic Rangers both through, that's great, but there's still room for movement as well. And depending on where they finish, they'll then learn the path all the way through to the final. So it's not just a case of, oh, we got through. There's a lot here at stake, and we'll know a lot more come the end of the week as well.
And it's still really funny that Man City are in the elimination group, which is just awesome. More of that, please.
I think it's something to be enjoyed as Scottish football fans, the new layout of the competitions, because I think it, especially for Rangers and Celtic, maybe not so much for teams like Hearts or Aberdeen necessarily, although I still think Hearts should have qualified out their group. It does give you a far better chance of getting through, I think. So it's good, because I think, I was a little bit taken aback by the level of, maybe it's being a bit dour, the level of celebration of it. For me personally, I think for all 3 Scottish clubs, I think the minimum expectation was for them to get through in 24th place or higher. I think looking at the tables and the clubs that were around them, I don't think that was an unnecessary expectation to have in them. And the only one obviously that didn't get through is Hearts, and they really should have. Like they absolutely blew it against Petro Cup, but also in matches before that. So it is, but it's good. I mean, it's wonderful, isn't it? It's our coefficients boosted. It just puts us on a better backing, I think, if our teams are regularly able to do this. And that's also the challenge now, I think, because regardless of the level, whether it's Champions League or Europa League might be a more realistic thing for our clubs, the vast majority of seasons, always looking to be trying to get out of this format, I think is what you should be looking to do. But it's good. I mean, for both teams to do it with a game to spare as well is excellent. And Rangers also have, it's an outside chance of qualifying in the top 8. Like, that's fantastic.
So does Celtic.
In top 8, really?
It's unlikely, but there is a scenario where it could happen, yeah.
Like you say, there can be massive lot of changes in the table, like just by a single victory. It could be quite interesting. And all eyes will be on Celtic Villa, I think, on Wednesday night. We should actually plug the old goal show on TNT. Not that we get sponsored by them, Laura, but all 18 matches are going to be like shown kind of at the same time in their goal show format. Something I used to work on every match day, which was class. Such a good show to watch. If you've not got any like affiliation with any club, but if you can imagine like 18 matches going on at the same time, like that's like if you're a fan of NFL Red Zone or anything like that, like this is next level, really.
I'll be at the studios for that as well. So next week's industry question, if you've got anything, I can maybe give you an insight into what happens behind the scenes because I'm quite looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's good fun. Like you basically just, in my capacity, then was you'd watch 8 matches going on at the same time. You'd try and make sure that you were like on the pulse for every goal, and you'd be spinning it around and playing it out. Great fun. Other news that's happening though in Scottish football, we saw Sunday Rangers were, was it 3-1 winners against Dundee United? But like a total calamity refereeing decision. Once again, there was a few actually at the weekend. But this one was particularly bad in my own opinion. Diomande got sent off an altercation with, was it Kevin Holt? It's an absolute joke, man. Like that has to get rescinded, this red card, surely.
It is, although I think it's weirdly been complicated because I think Nick Walsh or somebody came out after the game and kind of stood by the decision. So I think even if it goes to appeal, they'll probably still be like, yeah, but we said this, so it feels like it's already kind of been decided. I won't hold my breath on it being rescinded, but it's daft. It's like these things are so silly. What I think the thing I did enjoy is that there was a red card in the Premier League for Arsenal this weekend, which was absolutely insane. I think to most neutrals watching it, and yet Scottish football was just like, hold my beer, like we'll go in and do something even more insane. But it's officials. We talk about it every week. Every club's moaning about it all the time. I still won't move from the hill that I'm dying on, which is we need full-time professional referees. Nothing will change in the standard of refereeing until that happens. So anyway,
do you want to chime in on that, Laura, or should we just move on to the other story that's happening with Dundee United?
To be fair, I think it's everyone's saying the same thing. His reaction was to, I mean, there's barely a touch there, and to call it serious
violent conduct.
Violent conduct, sorry. To call it violent conduct, I don't think anyone quite understands what Nick Walsh has seen there.
Well, he gets shoved and he moves his arm, right? And I'm being quite animated, so you might see this on YouTube. So when he's pushed, he like moves his arm. So like, if anything, you could maybe argue intent, but there's no connection. It's not even. It wouldn't have even been that bad, even if he did.
If you get pushed, your arm naturally does that because you're going to try and balance yourself.
Exactly, Laura. But if anyone thought that would be a punch or whatever, like it's just lack of common sense. Really frustrating. But the other story that happened with Dundee in the build up to the weekend was this idea that the chief executive at their biggest rivals, Dundee, John Nelms, opened the door to the idea of ground sharing with Dundee United, with Dundee's proposed new stadium that they're hoping to build. I mean, is this just a wind-up for John? Is he just like, I'll just say this and see what happens? A bit like Musk level, just going to say what I want and just see what happens.
I feel like that's the only way this story merits any coverage, is just to go, you're ripping the piss, mate. What are you playing at? I feel like also this story's been around for a while. Like there's always somebody that tries to stoke the fire by going, they live close to each other. Should they just move in together? Does anyone in football actually agree that rivals should ground share?
No.
No, it's a horrible idea.
Just to play devil's advocate for a second, I could see the logical sense behind it. So taking all the emotion stuff of football out of it, you can see that they literally are based on the same street. You know what I mean? Like they're across the street from each other. So logistically, nothing changes really if Dundee are using Tannadice as their home stadium. Also, if you think about it, Dundee United would get rent essentially if Dundee are there, so they would get money from it. But obviously what John Nelms isn't taking into consideration, this is the thing you love Scottish football for, is that even though that is pragmatically probably the most sensible decision, the fans and everybody else on both sides are like, nah, not sharing with somebody that I hate, and that's to be applauded as well. So I can see, and also like, around the world, you know, like Lazio and Roma, for example, a lot of Italian clubs ground share one place, and they're two clubs that absolutely hate each other. Slightly different there because the clubs don't own their own stadiums; they're kind of leased from the council on like 100-year leases or whatever. So it's slightly different there, and they've been ground sharing for years and years and years. But yeah, it was a non-starter, wasn't it, right from the beginning?
The whole concept of it just doesn't. The whole like the Roma Lazio thing. Every time I see them play, I'm like, wait a minute, you're playing like Roma, especially. You're playing in a stadium that's blue. Why are you okay with this? And that might
Mm.
sound petty because it's just a color, but you've not made that your home. You've not stamped your authority on that in any way. And then when you play each other, your fans have got to move around. You lose certain areas of the ground. Your ultras will maybe move depending on what like team you're playing. I just don't like the
But
concept at all.
well, AC
It,
AC Milan and Inter Milan, right, as well.
yeah,
But they're just like, yeah, whatever.
I just nah. It's just you lack character, I think, if you do it. And why would you would never share a home with somebody you didn't like? So why would you share a stadium?
I don't know, Laura. Like sometimes, especially people when you move to London, you just have to share with folk. There's always somebody you don't like.
We've all been there.
Like six other people. Oh man, when I first moved to London, I'm certain I was the guy that everyone hated.
Oh
'Cause
no.
I lived with like five other Slovakian people. I had 2 days to like find a place in London, and they were amazing. They were like a lot older, and they looked after me. It was the first time I had snaps as well, proper snaps. But there was a few times I would come home a little bit worse for wear and like cook and like leave the kitchen like an absolute state. I was like 21. So anyway, there's always someone.
I shared a flat with a girl who it was Valentine's Day, but she sat on the stairs, not even in her room, but sat on the stairs, recording herself singing love songs as voice notes to her boyfriend.
And she's still single now.
We don't stay in touch.
Oh my God. Well, this is what you get on the Scottish football show, Weird Valentine Stories from London.
It's coming up in 2 weeks' time. Don't do it, guys. Don't do
Oh
it.
yeah, Jesus.
Don't
Oh
go
God.
singing to anyone.
Right, well, someone who loves to sing a song, a old Celtic fan favourite, Jota looks like he's coming back to the hoops, and what seems like it could be, or it looks like a bit of a swap deal, even though it won't be contractually a swap deal with a current fan favourite at Celtic, Kyogo. So by the time this podcast goes out, it's probably done and dusted. I think Jota was in Glasgow on Saturday night. Kyogo's off to Rennes for 10 million, and Jota's coming back to Celtic for just under 10. Which, in my opinion, I think is an unbelievable deal, guys. Really. If you think about it, Jota's coming back to Celtic with a history, a very, very strong history, but you don't know if you're going to get the same Jota before, whereas Kyogo, on the same token, has delivered so much like excellent moments for Celtic football fans, and he's leaving it as a 30-year-old for 10 million. I think and he came to Celtic for not that much. I think that's good deals, Laura.
They are. Especially the Kyogo one. I would have expected a little bit more from him, but I do appreciate his age, his contract running down. It's the Jota one for me, and I think it's just because I always harp on about I just don't think players should return to clubs when they've been a hero beforehand. It's a dangerous game to play. Is what is he going to come back and pick up where he left off? Does
That's what
that
that's
very
what
rarely happens when in this scenario?
And the same can go for Kieran Tierney, who looks like he could be back at Celtic. Maybe not this transfer window, but in the summer.
Yeah, which is again, we've discussed this before in the podcast about a hero returning. I get it when it's in the latter stages of their career and it's a kind of retirement move. It's a club they love, blah, 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 Robbie Keane all over again. But for someone like Kieran Tierney, who's what, 27, 28,
7.
for someone like
Yeah.
Jota coming back so soon after leaving on such a high as well, I just feel like, why are you coming back? Like, I don't know. It doesn't sit right with me. But there's also the argument as well of where does Jota fit in? Has he got a place to walk straight back into the Celtic team again, or is this because it looks like Palma's going and he's going to provide some element of cover in that sense?
Possibly, because I think Jota's position is where Nicholas Kuhn is right now. But
Exactly.
but ultimately, in terms of a financial aspect, you sell Jota as a young 21, 22 year old, or 23 maybe, to for 25 million, and then you get him back for under 10 for 3 years later, if that. And yes, he hasn't played a lot of football. That's my one concern, really, if you think about a player who, when he first came to Scottish football, was a joy to watch. He's not played a lot of football over the last few years. Whereas with Kyogo, didn't spend a lot of money on him and selling him for a profit. And Kieran Tierney's the same. Sell him for a lot of money and they're getting him back for well, we don't know how much it could be. So really interesting from Celtic. Could be good.
The interesting thing, because I think it's a phenomenal bit of business. I think in selling Kyogo at this point, because at 30, statistically he's already kind of like reached that peak, so he will start to deteriorate now. It's interesting to note that yeah, he's a 30-year-old going for £10 million. Rangers also have a 30-year-old striker that they're kind of desperate to shift, who's actually scored more goals in the last season and a half than Kyogo has, and I think they would bite your hand off for about the same money they paid for him. So
Yeah.
that's it's just, but that's just the way it's set up. I think from how good Celtic are known on an international stage for the players that they bring in, kind of spin around and then are able to upsell on the market going out. I agree with you, Laura, about Jota, that it's just it is a different thing for a former hero, especially coming back. It's difficult to say, but is he coming back a better player than he left? That's always the thing for me, I think, with a player coming back. Are they coming back different and better than they were before? Are they going to offer you more than they did before? I don't know if anybody can really say that about Jota at this moment, just given that he's the lack of football that he's had over the last number of seasons. So it would be interesting to see if he can come back and give Celtic what they did before, and they're able to sell him again at some point later down the line, because they've still got the time to do that. He's not reached his peak yet. That's the phenomenal bit of business.
Right, well, I think we should leave it there. We don't have enough time to rattle through the whole weekend's action, but it's really good, especially if you're a Queen of the South fan. But you can go and check on that now because they're third and chasing for the title. It's really good. So thanks, Laura. Thanks, Finn. We're going to go now, and nice and short. Happy days. Go and listen to something else now. Bye.